What's up? I'm Relatively Robin, and I am relatively making it through another day as somebody with a developmental disability, autism, and a functional neurological disorder that affects how I do everything that I do. I want to talk more about those things. I want to talk more about what those things mean, and I want to share as much information as I can, because I find all the time somebody dealing with a problem in a way that I can learn from, in a way that I didn't learn from, and maybe I can teach. And I want to bring more awareness to invisible disabilities, and I also want to talk about art and music creation. And I've been thinking about doing a series, I suppose, called Relatively Making It. And I guess we're going to do episode 1 right now because I'm relatively making it through my day. And next time I might be relatively making a song or talking about invisible disabilities, which is actually the topic for today. And I want to start by talking a little bit about identifying challenges and what is and isn't a challenge for somebody, because that's a question that can become confusing very quickly. And I'll give you some examples why. It seems it's clear cut. It sounds so easy, but there's a meme that went viral a while back. The joke is that there's a question on the autism exam that says, do you struggle with socks? And autistic people will say no, because they'll be like, I have a system for socks, so I don't struggle with it. But it's like you struggle with it so much that you have a whole system for it. That's the joke. And so like you are yes, that is, you have a system for it. You struggle with socks. You just aren't processing that, in that way. You're not thinking of it in those words. That went viral because so many people was like, oh yeah, that's me. I feel called out. It's me IRL, right? And my mind went to this old South Park episode where Jimmy and Timmy, which those were some of my favorite characters on that show. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. The representation is great. And here's why. They had a whole episode where they got in with the Crips and the Bloods, but they thought it was people who had been crippled at some point in their life versus people who had it in their blood, who were born disabled, right? And it's typical South Park shenanigans. And I understood that because I was born developmentally disabled. I never knew what it was like to be not developmentally disabled. I can't look at myself and say, I'm struggling with this more than I should, because I don't know how much I'm supposed to be struggling with it. A person says they don't struggle with socks because they have a system. What they're saying is I don't recognize that I struggle with socks, but I do struggle with socks, okay? And unfortunately, so much of the support is gated behind being able to recognize what's wrong. How do you ask for help if you don't know what's wrong? And when you're just a developmentally disabled child, you don't know how to ask for help. And you don't know what's wrong. It's in that way that disability becomes so invisible, that it becomes something that people don't want to acknowledge, something that simply makes you a target for bullying and Ritalin or whatever, and wanting to correct you back toward doing the thing that the other people do. And it leaves me feeling confused because I don't know what's happening, honestly. I don't know what's happening, any of it. I'm sitting here like trying to figure out where my hand is, and I can't do that because someone is stopping me from ticking or stemming or some shit. That's when you start getting into what functional neurological disorder is. And functional neurological disorder is when your body's responses have been overridden so many times that they get lost or learned improperly in the first place. It's highly comorbid with developmental disabilities for the reasons I spoke above. You can't necessarily even tell somebody what's wrong, and you can't tell someone you're hungry, or you become a bullying target, and you can't recognize what's being thrown at you, and you're trying to figure out for flinching. And so you learn to suppress your body's flinching responses, your body's like protection. You learn to disengage your self-protection. You learn to hold your breath and not let people know you're scared and hyperventilating. You learn to not cry ever. You learn to do just do it while you're hungry, just do it while you're thirsty, just push through. Coughing, having sicknesses, medical problems, and I sort of learned to walk on my toes. When I learned to walk, I never quite got it right, and I would always just be tiptoeing because I was so damn scared all the time. Everything was just unpredictable pain, and my body hurts because I don't move it properly. When I move my arm, if I even know where my hand is or and know what direction it's going, sometimes the bicep and the tricep might do something different, and now my elbow's messed up, or my rotator cuff's torn again. I've broken my hands 4 times, my feet 3 times, head injuries, and I had to be institutionalized for 5 years because I couldn't communicate what was wrong. Nobody wanted to believe how scared I was, how slow I was. And that's what functional neurological disorder is. It's where you've done these sort of trauma responses and shit so many times that your body forgets how to work itself. And before I got diagnosed, I was at a cardiologist who was saying what the electrical problem was with my heart before finally realizing it was just getting the wrong signals from my brain. 3 GI doctors yelling at each other in my room, trying to figure out why I was like dying of malnutrition. It ended up being my brain doesn't really know how to do a rest and digest response, and it wasn't ever activating my digestive system, and I just got so backed up that I physically lost my ability to eat and had to have that surgically restored. And during that time, I was sent home from one hospital as just anxiety, because it was invisible. I couldn't get it out. And so they sent me home, and then next thing I know, I'm having surgery to have my esophagus reopened at a different hospital down the street. I was diagnosed at the age of 21 with autism, and I was diagnosed at the age of 34 or 35 with functional neurological disorder. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't even recognize what was wrong because I've never lived a life with a nervous system that is functioning as intended. So I don't know what something is supposed to look like to people or sound like to people or whatever. I think I already said this, but I lived about 5 years of my life in a institutional home, because I didn't know what was wrong. I was treating bipolar disorder or treating an anxiety disorder or treating a tachycardia thing or treating a gastroparesis thing or something, and none of that was working. I'd been trying to get into a neurologist for years, and finally I got somebody to get it done because I looked at the last 5 specialists I'd seen, and every single one of them is like, your brain is sending the wrong signals to the body part that I do, and you're having problems with that body part. And every one of those body parts is something that I work a daily basis to try to retrain, to try to learn to walk, not just on the balls of my feet and hopping around, messing my knees up and dragging my feet everywhere, using half the muscles and just not coordinating things properly. I spend hours every day working on walking, working on talking. That's something that I'm getting better at, working on. And I want to talk about masking another time because I used to mask a lot. And masking and talking aren't the same thing. Masking is faking talking in that context, or to try to maintain the invisibility, which is what I'm trying to unlearn to do. Because the invisibility of it's a double-edged sword, and it makes it hard for somebody with the invisible disability to even recognize what is wrong and what is causing it. But then you do it every day. Yeah, that's what a functional neurological disorder is. Functional neurological disorder is when your brain isn't sending the right signals to your body, and it's not getting the right signals in either because it's mislearned it. That's why functional neurological disorders are so highly overlapping with developmental disabilities. Having a developmental disability it's rough. It's rough. It's rough. Nothing ever makes sense. Everything is too fast. You can't keep up. But I can do math and music good. I don't know, dude. Things are getting better nowadays, though. I do want to end on a positive note. I want to end on a positive note. Kids nowadays aren't getting treated the way kids were when I was young. I'm in my 30s, and I'm just now learning to kind of live my life in a way that's good for me, you know? But a lot of people are being taught that at a younger age now, and they're even now getting to the point where they're doing kind of aging out programs for those people that have been taught, and we can start to really see the benefits of early intervention occupational therapy and stuff like that. And what I'm hoping to do is get access to those resources to adults like me who didn't get that stuff when we were kids. We got Ritalin and sit still, you know, and look me in the eyes, and 2 for flinching, ostracization, and then told, no, it's not like that, when we tried to tell the doctor or anyone else. And that's changed. That's a good thing that it's changed. Great thing that it's changed. But there's a lot of healing to do, and I'm trying to do that. So if this helps you, then even just leave a heart or something, you know, to and I'll try to continue to document, I guess, and relay it in this way.